So welcome everybody to another Toy Chat. Great to see a good turnout again tonight. And this evening, we're going to welcome back Bruce Toshack, who's no stranger to this group. He's been involved in some past presentations. And a month or two ago, he did one on miscellaneous Canadian manufactured toys. And he had so many that he's saved us a session 2. So we're going to invite Bruce to come back on and carry on sharing with us some Canadian-made toys that he knows of, many of which are in his collection, and he may have some other photos. So Bruce, thank you so much for sharing your time and your experience with us, and we'll turn it over to you.
Okay, well, thanks everybody for coming out tonight and joining me on a Sunday evening. I'm going to start off by saying I don't claim to be an expert. I just kind of follow the history trail of all these toy companies. The ones we're dealing with tonight are pretty much known but not known, meaning everybody's probably seen them, but not a lot is known about the history. So I'm going to start off, and the first company I'm going to talk about tonight is a company called Husky Toys Canada, and they were manufactured by a company called Mercury Tool and Stamping out of Toronto. They had around 30 different types of toys, and I'm going to scroll through here. 30 different types of toys. Started off with hand painting their trucks, then went to a painted like a letter set, then went to a deco in their later years. Husky has a big connection to the company Sunoco out of the States. Not quite sure what the connection is. If you put a Sunoco truck and a Husky truck side by side, they're identical. I'm guessing, like some of the other companies, the Canadian company went down to the US and said, I want to buy a tractor trailer load of your trucks, and brought them up here and relabeled them as Husky. They started business in 1955, went out of business around 1964 and 65. Now there's another little piece of this puzzle, and I'll talk about it in a second. I'll just look at the picture I have here. They had 4 different sizes of tractor trailers, starting with the top with a single axle. Then they went to a tandem, then a big tandem, and then actually a triaxle for the Loblaws supermarket store. As always, I always like to have a box that tells the story. As you can see, Husky Toys, Mercury Tool and Stamping, Toronto, Canada. And their little logo, the safest toys for Canadian boys. No talk about girls, just for boys. Again, they made various models of toys, made a car carrier. I don't know of anybody who has one with cars on it that came from the factory. It's one of those unknown ones. I don't believe they ever came with toy cars. But we're always hoping that one will pop out of the woodwork. Their boxes also came as garages. So when you bought the toy, the box that came in was made to be a garage, just a little bit of a marketing issue. As you can see with this one, it also came with the ramp. Again, nice clean version. This is more of the Sunoco style. In the later versions, you can see they actually had a grill on the front that they must have put on, probably to get around licensing issues as part of Sunoco and the Husky company. So next one on our list, Galt Metal Industries. Started as a company called Galt Art and Metal Co. They made steel shingles for homes, roof shingles that is. And components for barns. Not sure what that was, but was there. During war years, their manufacturing turned over to making parts for the Mosquito bomber. In 1942, they became Galt Metal Industries, and they started to produce toys around 1948 and 49. At this point in time, I don't know when they went out of business, but they made a ride-on train, as you can see. They also had one out labeled as an Eaton's Flyer, which they made for the Eaton's company as part of their winter catalog. As you can see, made in Canada by Galt Metal Industries Limited, Galt, Ontario, which for those of you who don't know, Galt was is now part of the city of Cambridge. They made two styles of truck, which is, this is one. Same tires, same box, but a different front. And there's the second version. So I'll just skip back. There's version 1 and version 2. All came with steel wheels, all came with a simple dump box and a pretty simple construction method. Just lately, we found out that they also made an airplane, which was last winter. Never knew that they made an airplane. Always really important that we're finding out this stuff. This is compliments of a friend of mine. This is in his collection. And whoops, go back. And they also made a toy wagon. Now this wagon uses the same box as on the truck that I showed you a little while ago. Again, steel wheels. And if you can see right there is the logo. That's the problem with a lot of these toys, is that logo got wore off or wasn't on them at all. So to identify a Galt Metal toy, you kind of have to go by the steel wheels and just putting all the pieces together that, yeah, it's a Galt Metals truck. Again, hard to identify. Not a lot of them out there, but they do pop up once in a while. And unfortunately, this style of truck loses its grill. So you'll see a lot of this style of truck out there with no grill on it. The next one, Preston Tool and Die. This is one of my favorite trucks that's out there. Again, Preston, for those of you who want to know, again, part of the city of Cambridge. And we'll talk about this a little later at the end of my presentation. Preston Tool and Die, Preston, Ontario, operated mid-50s to the early 60s, only made 6 models of truck that we know about. They had 2 different styles of cabs, meaning one had a decal like this one here on it, and the other one had no decal on it. It just had indentations as part of the molding or as part of the mold process. I'll scroll through. This is one, and there's the press on decal, manufactured Preston Tool and Die Limited. Another variation there. That's the tractor trailer, and if you can notice here, you can see the grille and headlights are part of the molding process, as part of the stamping process. This one has the box. Unfortunately, none of the story is on the box. You know how I always talk about how the box is important. All this box says is lumber truck and the number. It doesn't tell Preston Tool and Die. It doesn't say where it's from. It doesn't give a date. It doesn't give a street address. It doesn't give anything like that, unfortunately. A little disappointing, but still nice to have a piece in the box. And this is called a lumber truck as well. And there's just another view of it. Lumber truck number 2. I'll scroll back here a little bit. And that's lumber truck number 1. So that's 2 variations. One's a tractor trailer and one's a straight truck. There's the 4 different variations. We have the lumber truck, the kind of a dump truck, a tractor trailer with an open trailer, and a tractor trailer with a closed trailer on it. Now, as you all know, there's just another view of it, deluxe truck. This looks really, really familiar to just the Preston Tool and Die. I'll come back to that in a minute. To the Lincoln, what we call a sleeper cab truck. Almost identical. There's some thought that the dies from Preston Tool and Die went to Lincoln and they created this look of truck from those. Whether it's true or not, I don't know. It's one of those pieces of the toy story we really don't know anything about and don't know where to pick up that little piece of the story. This is Preston Tool and Die off of the factory. I was very fortunate a few years ago to pick this up. I didn't want it at the time. I thought it was too big, but I'm kind of glad I had it. It's off the factory, and it's always nice to have a real nice piece of Canadian toy history in my home. I'm not sure what I'm going to do with it yet, but I have it. So maybe eventually it'll go to a museum somewhere. And again, the Lincoln look at the sleeper cab truck. Mitten Industries. Again, another company that was in Galt, Ontario, which again is part of Cambridge. Manufactured toys between 1946 and 1953. Two different cab styles. This is one, and that's the second. So one's kind of a snubby nose cab, and one's kind of a conventional looking cab. 23 and counting different models. The company started off making wagon and wood toys, and as far as I know, they're still in business today. They've Mitten Industries, the siding company, I believe, is the same company, so they're still in business. I called a couple of times to try and figure out if they knew anything about their history in the toy, and nobody knows anything about that. Somewhere along the line, and I'll get back to this, I'll just scroll through here. That's their tractor trailer. Notice the big Mitten and Trans-Canada van lines. They made up, again, a car hauler. I don't know of anybody that has a car, or if it came with cars, I don't know. This version came in a single deck car hauler as well. Tow truck, again, with the snub nose. I believe Sunset Store was a private label. I need to do a little bit more research on that and find out where that part of the puzzle came from. Mitten Industries, again, the big mitt and wings. I'm not sure what the wings had to do with anything, but kind of a nice piece on their cab. Now, somewhere along the line, Mitten went out of business, and a company called Colortone or Colortone Toys Limited came into being. What's the connection? We really don't know, but identical truck to the Mitten. The only difference was it's marketed under a different name. Now, I'd like to thank the gentleman that allowed me to take this picture. It's part of his collection. But, you know, it's another piece of the puzzle that we just don't know about. Just to show you, this wheel is kind of a whitish color or a cream color. That's true to a lot of Mitten toys. They didn't come with necessarily all black wheels. They did come with white wheels, which is a dead giveaway to the toy. They're well marked. Almost all of them have a Mitten or a different style of marking on them to identify them. Either you like the look of them or you don't. I have quite an extensive collection of them myself, and I pick them up whenever I have. A sad part of this story is Peter Ward, who was Dr. Junk at the Aberfoyle flea market, worked for Mitten Toys for years, and we didn't know that until after he had passed away. So unfortunately, a lot of the information that we could have got on Mitten passed away with Peter just because we never asked and didn't know. Now, according to his daughter, who I've spoke to a few times, all the dies for these toys were dumped behind the factory in Galt, Ontario. So not sure if they would still be there, if you could dig them up as part of history or not. It's just a fun little tidbit that unfortunately has got lost to history. So our next toy, these are kind of a unique little, they are cast aluminum. They're Jeeps. They should be red and green. Unfortunately, the paint doesn't stay on these very much. And for the longest time, a lot of collectors always thought that these were put out by Lincoln Industries because they have the same wheels. They're cast aluminum like a lot of the Massey Harris tractors were for Lincoln. But lo and behold, in one of my adventures, I found this. And it tells the story that the aluminum Jeep manufactured by Progressive Merchandising in Islington, Ontario, of all places. They came in red and green. They came with a little box that turned into a garage. So it tells the story. I have harped on this before in a couple of my rants, how important boxes are and little pieces of literature. There's a great example of the whole story. So I'll just go back there. There they are. They're nice little trucks. I'm fortunate to have it. One is green and one is red. Just the paint didn't stay on them very much. There's no motor in them, but kind of just another little piece of Canadian history that we finally found out about. Now, there is a little bit of another note to this, meaning there is a company in the US that puts out a Jeep that almost looks identical to it. There are subtle differences, but if you put this side by side, the two side by side, would you think they were made by the same company? I don't know. I've never been able to find out any information about this Progressive Merchandising, whether they actually manufactured or whether they just bought the toys and relabeled them like a lot of companies did. Now, made in Canada is etched in the bottom of these. I don't have a picture of that, but it is etched in the bottom. So we know they were probably kind of Canadian made. That's about it. Not a lot of them are out there, but not a lot of people know what they are and where they came from. So, and by the way, yeah, that's the true number. I paid $4 for that little piece of literature, so it was a bonus. Now, the next is Richard, and lots of people pronounce it Richard, but it's actually Richard, like the hockey company, the hockey player. And I'll tell you a little history. They just made ride-ons. Longueuil, Quebec, one of the few Quebec entries into the Canadian toy scene. We're in business from 1950 to 1961 or 62. They were distributed by D.D. Feldman and Company out of Montreal. I've never figured that connection out, whether they were just Richard manufactured them and had hired another company to promote them, or what the connection was. I don't know, but there definitely is a connection. There's also a connection to Keystone. So for any of you that are toy collectors out there, which I know you all are, if you look at this truck, it subtly looks like a Keystone truck out of the States, which are ride-ons. If you Google it later on, you'll see the difference. Richard put this little front piece on here, I guess to get around the laws of the land. And most of the Richards, I'm calling it Richards, have a wood handle on them as well. Now, there are a few with steel handles on them, but most of them are. But again, there's a connection to Keystone. They made 14 and counting different toys at this time, all ride-ons, as I said. This is the fire truck, which is a tractor trailer. They made a tow truck as well. I remember I was talking about the steel steering wheel. That's correct. They also made a steam shovel, which you could sit on, which again looks like the Keystone one. A couple of more tractor trailers. Now this one here is more like the Keystone version, and this is the Richard version. Even though they're both labeled Richard, That's kind of the difference in the two. And that's the two variations that I talk about. Both are correct. Don't know what the connection is, but again, kind of a nice piece to have in your collection. Cement truck as well. I don't know how you would sit on that mixer, but kind of an interesting little toy, and an interesting toy, a cement mixer. Again, heavy transport, Richard Toys, co-registered. So the most popular of the Richard is a milk truck and a 7-Up truck. You'll see more of them than probably any other toy. They call the 7-Up truck a beverage truck, and the milk truck, you'll see a lot of them. They're kind of a cab over or a closed box type of thing, but very interesting toys out of Quebec. Qualitoy. What I know about Qualitoy is exactly what you see there. Qualitoy, made in Canada. Nobody has any idea where this truck came from. We know they made one run. They're all red. I've never seen them in any other color. There's the front, Qualitoy written on the front, on the grill. There's the back, Qualitoy. They do have a little bit of a likeness to a Tonka. And they do have a little bit of a likeness to a Buddy L truck. But other than that, nobody knows anything about this truck. It's one of those questionable ones that we've talked about over numerous conversations about it, and nobody knows where it came from. I'm guessing it came from Ontario, but I really don't know. It's well made, rubber wheels, hubcaps, plastic windshield, oops, too far. A separate grill with Qualitoy in them, Qualitoy in the tailgate. So whoever made them put a lot of time and effort into them, but unfortunately, nobody knows anything about them. We think maybe 2 different shades of red, but unknown. And we did hear that there might have been a blue one somewhere along the line, but again, I've never seen it. At this point in time, I've only seen red. So if you're out on the hunt and you happen to come across a Qualitoy, it's made somewhere in Canada. Little Beaver, excuse me, I'm just gonna have a drink. Little Beaver toys, probably up there with Lincoln and Mini Toy. A lot of the company produced toys, very popular right now. The price of them is going up in value every day. Everybody seems to have not given up on Lincoln, but they seem to be, Little Beaver seems to be a little bit more readily available. So they're becoming popular. They were in business late 1960s to early 1960 to late 60, meaning 69, even maybe into early 70, but we really don't know. Their close resemblance to Buddy L and Structo, and you will see these trucks with Buddy L marked on them, and I'll talk about that in a minute. They made a lot of private label trucks, and a lot of them are available. So this is what we call a second generation truck, meaning it's got the second generation label on it. It's got a spring front end, so you can push it up and down, and it actually springs, and 24-hour service. They made a tow truck for Super Test. Again, 2 variations of that. This is the second variation, which is closer to a Buddy L look. Super Test, you get your very best at Super Test. They also made one for Sunoco. And the only way you can identify these is they actually, in the white wall right there, they have Little Beaver on them. And all Little Beaver toys has that written on them. So it's one way to distinguish them. They made campers in various colors and various models. This one has a steel camper on it, and they also came with plastic as well in the later years. Again, I'll draw your attention to the B, meaning possibly Buddy L, possibly Little Beaver. That's where we're starting to get into the connection of Little Beaver and Buddy L. Steinberg's truck, again, private label. General Bakeries, again, private label, very nice trucks, very popular right now. Gumby and Pokey. Now, if you look at the Jeep, it's 100% a Tonka. A little subtle difference, meaning how they attach the windshield, but other than that, it's 100%, it's a Tonka Jeep. So why Tonka didn't put this out and Little Beaver did as part of Gumby and Pokey, again, we don't know. Maybe it was a licensing thing. How did Little Beaver get a Tonka Jeep and just label it? I don't know what that connection is either. Again, it's a big piece of the puzzle that we don't really know about. Again, a few years ago, really lucky to find a catalog. Has a lot of the toys in it, and you know what they bought out, what they had produced that maybe we didn't see before. So it's nice to always get a catalog as well. A pink Jeep, I guess put out for girls, maybe to try and get girls interested in playing with toys. It's the only company I know of that did a pink one. It's a very nice toy. I wish I had an original in my collection, but again, nice piece. Now, I'll draw your attention to the plastic mirror and the plastic horn and the plastic windshield wipers. That is correct. Some of the Little Beaver toys did come out with that. And some of us guys, when they get lost, we can buy reproductions and put them on. Just helps the look of the truck. I know they got broke off really easy in Playware, but they were designed to have those on there. So another little bit about Little Beaver. They were in bed with Irwin Toys out of Toronto. Irwin Toy did a lot of marketing for Little Beaver. Not sure if Irwin Toy owned Little Beaver or whether somebody else did it and just produced the toys for Irwin. I don't know that. Again, more research needs to be done. In later years, Buddy L had their name on the side of the truck. Unfortunately, I didn't bring a picture up, and I apologize for that. We think that has something to do with licensing from Buddy L. All these trucks are basically based on the Buddy L pickup trucks out of the US. We think Little Beaver just went down and bought dies and said, we're going to produce trucks like yours. And in later years, instead of using dies, they just went down and bought truckloads and rebranded them. We think, again, we really don't know, but you will see these Little Beaver trucks with Buddy L on the doors and Little Beaver marked on the white walls. So again, really nice trucks to have. I have quite a few in my collection here, and I know a lot of people that are quite happy to have the private label stuff as well. Which makes us jump to our next toy truck, which is called a Saturn. So basically, Little Beaver went out of business one day, and the employees at the factory said, we don't want this to go out of business, and rebranded the toys as Saturn. They're the absolute identical truck, and graders, only they're marked with Saturn on them. Little Beaver will be on the, sorry, not Little Beaver. The white walls will have no markings on them. So when you find a toy that maybe doesn't have Saturn on it, if you look at the white walls and if there's no marking as Little Beaver, it's probably a Saturn. We've got caught up in this a few times about thinking something was a Little Beaver, and it actually ended up being a Saturn. Again, we always thought this truck here was a little Beaver, but it ended up, we believe it's a Saturn. There's no markings on this, unfortunately, but the white walls are plain. They have no little Beaver on them. And I'll show you a picture in a minute. Let me scroll through it. There's the truck, we think. So Saturn Toys Limited, Tilbury. So again, it tells the story. Same tow trucks, but on Saturn tow trucks, there's just a straight maple leaf. So again, I don't know of anybody that has one of those, but there's the truck, and we're pretty sure it's a Saturn toy truck. Again, made a tractor, same as the little Beaver one, only has Saturn written on it. Dump truck, or same thing, same plastic bumper, little bit different hubcap, but on the white wall, there's no markings, they're plain, so we know that they're Saturn. Power shovel, same as, basically it's a Lincoln that evolved into a little Beaver, which evolved into a Saturn. And there's the same thing. Now this one never had white wall or hubcaps. The plastic was actually painted. Why? We're thinking and guessing that they were running out of money at the factory and they just wanted to get toys out on the shelf. So instead of paying to have a white wall and an insert or a wheel disc made, they just painted the plastic and sent them out for sale. They used everything that they had as part of that. Now, a little bit of the backstory here, they were all made at the same factory, meaning the Lincoln factory closed. They started making little Beaver toys at the factory, same factory in Tilbury, and then same factory in Tilbury made Saturn toys as well. Why? I guess they were set up. They had the staff, they had the people that knew how to make stamped toys, and it was just easy to open the factory back up again than it was to go somewhere else. Again, I stand to be corrected on any of this, and if anybody has a different opinion, with documentation that is, please give me a call and I'd gladly change my my thoughts on it. Again, another picture. This was in a Playthings magazine. Kind of tells the story, you know, and the date, June 1970. So we know that they were trying to sell them in 1970. They had different places where they were marketed and what the toy actually looked like. So this is another anomaly. This is called Playfleet. So what is Playfleet? Again, another unknown. What do we know about Playfleet? Well, they're cast aluminum as well. They're about 4 to 5 inches long. They came in a couple of variations. That's the guessing to look like the Labatt's tanker or Labatt's truck, the Streamliner truck. So there's that one. They made a dump truck. Whoops. They made an open truck. And there's what we know. Playfleet, made in Canada. That's all anybody knows about that type of thing. And they made sort of a pickup truck. So again, what does that mean? Well, it means that they were made somewhere where there was a foundry. Don't know where, don't know why, never found any information about them. There are a few out there in collections. They're hard to identify, meaning you'll see one and you would think it's a Tootsie toy out of the US or maybe another manufacturer. So they're a little bit hard to identify. They do have rubber wheels on them. I don't know if I have a picture of that or not. This one's broken, but it's in my collection. They do have rubber wheels on them. So what we know about them is very, very minimal. I wished I knew more. It's another one of those companies that I really don't know anything about. So that's kind of my main presentation tonight. Now I'm going to talk about a couple other things. Cambridge, which is now known Cambridge, Ontario, seems to be or has been the hub of toy making for Ontario, if not Canada. You've seen some of the toys they had tonight. Preston was there, Galt Metals was there, Mitten was there, Daisy Manufacturing was there as part of their factory that made BB guns. And there's a couple more. When I was doing my research today, I kind of ran out of time, but there was a few other, I think it's called Buffalo Toys, who made wooden toys. So some of these unknown companies, and Steel Tread Toys started out there before they moved to Air. So there's at least 6 companies that were there. So can we surmise that a couple of these other ones were manufactured there too, like Playfleet, Qualitoy? Maybe. It's a big unknown, but there's no doubt there was other little companies that started off there and got bought out and just didn't manufacture. Tilbury, which is not that far down the road. Again, a lot of toys were made there as part of, Lincoln and Little Beaver and Saturn. So it's kind of interesting that a little place like Cambridge, with all these little towns before amalgamated, all kind of made toys, and what the connection is and why they all started to get into the toy business. I don't know. It would be interesting to try and find out, but I really don't know. I've spoken to the Cambridge Historical Society, and unfortunately it's one of those things that I haven't been able to get much out of during COVID, and it's one of those pieces that we may have to go back through and try and check the records and business records over time and try and figure out what is what. Now, I didn't talk about, there are other companies I didn't talk about tonight. Here's one, it's called Real Types, and they made die-cast cars, very small, 3 inches. They're marked made in Canada, really popular if you can find one, really hard to identify because they're around the same size as a Dinky. But the value of these are really going up through the roof, and I could spend a whole night on these as well. Pax Toys, another steel toy manufacturer, was in business a long time. Not sure if they're even maybe still in business. Again, I could spend a whole night on that as well. And don't know much about the company and their toy presentation. A nice little steel truck, approximately 8 inches. Again, I got this from another collector. I take pictures whenever I can, just so I know what they are if I happen to see one. Tonka Canada. We'll go back to that one. You heard me talk about Mercury Tool and Stamping as part of Husky Toys. Well, Husky Toys went out of business, and Tonka either bought the factory or bought out Husky, or Husky came to an agreement with Tonka and they started producing Tonka toys. Same factory, same everything. So at somewhere along the line, they quit producing Husky and got into Tonka Canada. This is an RCAF Tonka Canadian version. Just so you know, all Canadian Tonkas have made in Canada written on the windscreen. Again, I could spend another night on just Tonkas as well. Marks Canada. Yes, the big company Marks did make toys. Well, I shouldn't say they made toys in Canada. I don't know if they made them or if they just marketed them in Canada. This one is for the Canadian Army. It's the Army truck. I do have another one in my collection that's actually stamped made in Canada. So I don't know if that's was produced in the US and brought to Canada, or whether they actually had a facility here. Again, that's another one that we need to do a little bit of research on and try and find out the connection. So back to live. That's my my chat for tonight. If anybody has any questions, I'll try and answer them, or any comments. Let's open it up, and hopefully we can have a discussion on it.
Well, that's great, Bruce. Thank you so much. Very interesting, and great to learn more about the toys, which are just made down the road from where I live, actually. I had a question to start off with. Did Reliable make tin trucks at one time?
Possibly. I know they made some combination ones, meaning they were partially tin and partially plastic. I don't have any tin Reliables in my collection, so I'm probably going to say no. They were kind of on the cusp of injection molding, meaning the Ontario or Canadian government actually got them into injection molding as part of the war effort. I just read that somewhere in doing my research over the Christmas holidays, that's how Reliable kind of got into the plastic.
So who else has a question?
I have a question, Doug. Bruce, really good presentation. Thanks. I've got a question on that Progressive Jeep. Where was that company located?
They were located in Islington.
Oh, in Islington. Okay.
Yeah. Now, whether they actually had a factory there or that was just the company that was selling them, I don't know, but it's nice to have the literature, and it kind of tells the story. So again, that was a big, now it's a misconception that they were Lincolns. Were they actually made by Lincoln and sold by Progressive? Nobody seems to know that. I really, that's a big unknown that nobody knows anything about it.
Yeah. Well, interestingly, you answered a mystery question for me, because I've actually got one. Didn't know what it was other than made in Canada. It's a red one. I just went and grabbed it. But you said something about made in Canada. And if anybody's interested, I can show it to you on the screen. If I don't know if it'll come through or not, but if you look behind the axle, you can see that there. Of course,
Yep.
It's backwards, but that's what it looks like. And I'm sure it's the same Jeep that you were showing.
Now, does yours have the motor in it?
No, this is the inside.
Yeah.
It's electric.
Yeah, I've never seen one with a motor. The US version that's kind of like it does have a motor in it, but I've never seen that style that you have with a motor in it as well.
Yeah, this is the only one.
That's a nice one. It's a nice color.
Well, actually, it's repainted, but it was red, and you're right. This didn't have much red left on it, but it had enough red that we knew it was red. I actually repainted it, right or wrong. Don't know if I should have, but I did.
I don't think it hurts the value. I don't think it hurts the value at all.
Bruce, I'm going to show you a truck. Maybe you can tell me if you know anything about it.
That's a Reliable.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah, for sure.
Now, is that tin or might that be plastic?
That it's all plastic.
Okay. Anyway,
Yeah.
that's what made me wonder if they've made tin trucks.
Not that I know of.
Okay. So do we have anybody else with any questions or comments?
I'd just like to say thanks to Bruce for all the research he's done and sharing his knowledge with us, because it's really cool to know.
Thanks very much. And again, if anybody has anything they can add, please give me an email or a call or whatever. I'd love to talk to you about it. I enjoy sharing it, and I'm trying to save the history while we still can. So it's fun for me. I enjoy it a lot.